Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody is doing well. We get the latest Manchester United news today. Good amount of some decent transfer stories. Yan Diomande, Nico Williams, potential raid on RB Leipzig because we are being linked to quite a good number of their players. I think the count right now is about 3 of their players. And all news coming out about them, or updates or rumors coming out about them today. 3 separate different players from RB Leipzig. And of course, as Manchester United fans, we all know that we have a man by the name of Christopher Vivell, who is the head of our recruitment, who has ties to RB Leipzig because he worked for them. And we also just purchased a player by the name of Benjamin Sesko in this past summer transfer window, which Vivell pushed very hard for, or recommended very highly, and he came from RB Leipzig. So obviously Yan Diomande has been sort of the biggest one, and we're not the only one in the running for him. There's a sort of a high amount of competition for Yan Diomande, a young, exciting player. Many people see a lot of high potential in him and rate his skills and ability already at his age. But we also have 2 other players, so we're going to get into that. We got a small update about the sort of manager situation between Carrick, Roberto De Zerbi, again, sort of leading the way on the headlines today for that position. And a couple other, sort of loose end news. There's a story about Eduardo Camavinga apparently being available to leave Real Madrid for what I think many people would, if the price tag is to be accurate, I think many people are probably watering out of the mouth a little bit for that. So we'll talk about that. And we got an update about the stadium as well. And it's not positive for us, really. So we'll touch on that. And then, we'll just do whatever else the chat wants to talk about. So I hope everybody's doing well. Please make sure you smash the like button because it's very important to the channel, to the show, to the community. So get it done. Smash that like button. Hope everybody's doing well. Reynoso was here. First one here. Kicked off. Rajat's here. Brown Knight is here. And Steph is here. So good to see you all. It's been about a week. Almost. I think it actually has been exactly a week. I got very busy. And I didn't have time to do the show, so I apologize for going a big ghost. Okay? And again, I told you guys once upon a time, my schedule is a bit all over the place, so I can't even give you a heads up, really. Even, I want to, but I just couldn't. I have absolutely no clue when I was going to be able to do one until yesterday. Yesterday, I knew that I'd be able to do one today, so... Reynoso said it's currently 12:25 p.m. PST, which is Pacific Standard Time, for those that may not know. Last week, this time, it was 11:25 Pacific Standard Time, for those of you who don't deal with daylight savings time. It screws in my head, but it gives me an even larger head start on Lucky. Well, yeah, same for us. Right now, I mean, as you can see on the clock, okay, it says 4:23 p.m., and that's Eastern Standard Time. And, usually we are 5 hours behind the UK. We are 4 hours behind because, yes, because we moved forward. So we moved 1 hour closer to the UK and I guess other parts of Europe. What's up, Bruno? So I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a little bit. I was excited to come back. Big up Eric and experienced. A Red Devil says, Steph, time flies when you're having fun. Brown Knight says it's 4:25 a.m. here, so go figure. Yeah. We got all different types of times, all different people around the world. PST, not to be confused with PTSD. Yes, don't confuse those. Those are 2 very, very different things, okay? We sometimes we might have to deal with both. If you're Reynoso, if you're somebody like Reynoso and you're over there, sometimes you got to deal with PST and PTSD because of things that United have done to us in the past. But let's get into this, okay? And we'll have some fun in a little bit. But let's let's sort of break into this RB Leipzig thing, because I was going through the news today, okay, and I see one Leipzig player being linked to us playing in center back. I see, obviously, the main guy that's been linked with us and other clubs for quite a bit of time, who Yan Diomande, he is the winger, okay, and then I saw another RB Leipzig player being linked to Manchester United, and he plays in the midfield. So I'm just kind of sitting here, and I'm just like, as Manchester United has just said, Christopher Vivell, take full reins, and let's go raid, RB Leipzig for as many players as possible. I do think that there has to be some sort of, at least a minimal connection. Maybe none of this actually happens. Maybe, it's very easy to write sort of stories and link Manchester United because of Christopher Vivell, and we already went and bought Benjamin Sesko, and Vivell's history with RB Leipzig group, and RB Leipzig, in general. So maybe it's just quite easy to write a bunch of stories, because people will buy into them. But listen, RB Leipzig, they are very good at getting sort of young, promising, talented players, and developing them into players that attract interest from many clubs. So we have the Yan Diomande update. Let's start with that one, because this is the one that we all sort of know. There's one that I laughed at, okay, because it's quite hilarious for the situation. But Fabrizio Romano gave us an update saying that Manchester United scouts were in attendance for the last game played by RB Leipzig. Yet again, I believe that's, been a couple times they've done that. He went on to say that they maintain a strong interest in Yan Diomande. He's not the only option. They have several for the left wing position, which is sort of, a bit of a discussion that we had, because I think everybody has sort of come to the ultimate, conclusion that we do need a left winger, right? I think Anthony Gordon has been part of the conversation at times, Yan Diomande, and there's probably a couple other ones out there. So, when we talk about the summer window, we all know that the midfield has to happen. There's no choice that it can't happen. We don't even have, players for that, in terms of, it's not even like we can necessarily keep people. We literally are technically already short, especially for next season. So, but beyond past the midfield, left winger, a lot of people would like to see some sort of a left back or a left wing back, a right back or a right wing back as well. And some people even stepping onto the center back, which is quite interesting, because we've actually gotten some updates about the center back position, and there is a potential that the center back position can actually come into play this summer, which I kind of felt like wasn't really going to happen because of sort of, what we kind of got going on there. But there is some concerns being raised, not only by the fan base, but by Manchester United themselves, apparently. So there is more to Yan Diomande a little bit, okay? Something about a price tag. Once I find it, I will tell you. It is up here somewhere. The clubs, this is what made me laugh, because Tottenham are mentioned in this, and it's like Sir Alex said, it's Spurs, or it's Tottenham, lads. Like, come on. But they said that the clubs in the race for Yan Diomande believe Leipzig are grandstanding, and the price they will hold out for will be between 60 million to 80 million euros, rather than 80 million to 100 million euros. Manchester United and Tottenham are the Premier League clubs that are locked in on him, and that was from Ben Jacobs. And I laugh because Tottenham are getting relegated. You know what I mean? Like, Tottenham are literally getting relegated. So, Tottenham can be locked in on him all they want. Tottenham are going to be locked up in the Championship. Tottenham are going to be locked up for money. Tottenham, are not in this conversation. Like, they listen, they might actually stay up, but I'm kind of just like, I think they got no hope. I think they're done. Like the players aren't trying, they don't care, they ain't performing. I don't think they actually stand a chance. So, Mr. Reynoso with a big super chat. Thank you very much. Says, let's get this new episode of the Red Devil Experience started off right with a little Zin money for our boy. Thank you. Sponsored by Zin. I got the spearmint flavor today. Okay. If I will give a disclaimer. If you don't use nicotine and don't do nicotine products, don't start now. I don't encourage you to do so. Okay. But I appreciate it very much. What a way to start the show with a $10 super chat for some Zins that I could buy later. All right. Axe says, I saw last night I am sold Valverde and ASAP. Well, listen, Valverde, I mean, hat-trick yesterday went, I mean, he's got to be one of the best center mids there is in the world right now, all right? And there ain't no chance that Valverde is getting taken out of Real Madrid. You know, you're going to have to give him a nice pretty penny. And when I mean pretty penny, I mean like hundreds of millions. Ain't nobody buying it. And they probably would still reject it. So, but he is very, very good. So, Box is here, says, yo, what's up? What's up, Box? Steph says, ideally we need 2 new fullbacks, a center-back, and 2 center defensive mids bare minimum. Ideally, yes. And I think eventually, yes. I don't think that's going to happen all in one summer, Steph. Even though maybe I would like it to. And there's also, you know, we've had some conversations on this channel as well in the past couple weeks that, you know, as much as we need or would like a lot of changes to happen, we also have to sort of remember that if we do a lot of changes, it could be a bit disruptive. Not to give the Glazers or Ineos an excuse to not spend money and to not get business done. But I use Liverpool as the most recent sort of example in terms of they sort of bought a lot of players and they sort of tried to put everybody into the first team sort of immediately, and that didn't really go well, and it hasn't really gone well for them this season. And that's typically happens a lot. Typically happens a lot. I mean, even when you look at our past teams like under Sir Alex, he would try to do a nice mixture where he wouldn't have to change the team too much, you know, from season to season, so that he can sort of keep a good, you know, balance, and it wouldn't disrupt much. And, you know, if there was ever a time where he did have to make maybe, you know, the squad aged out to a certain point and he did have to let a couple of the main core sort of go and rebuild. I mean, I don't, as far as I can remember, I don't think it necessarily worked out for us in that season in terms of we didn't go on to win the Prem in that season. It was a bit of a transition, and then we would bounce back obviously the next year when it gelled after a year, and we would be more at full strength and give it a go. So, Vivell seems fairly rigid in his approach, Bundesliga, Leipzig heavy, it seems. Well, I mean, number one, he is German, okay? And number two, that is sort of his background. So, I mean, I sort of expect it. I mean, you know, it's a little bit like when you play Football Manager or something, right? You got like the scouts, or, you know, you got your, you know, maybe you hire your director of football or whatever, you know, and it has that little thing in the corner where it says like scouting knowledge or whatever, and it shows you like the countries that they are like very familiar with or whatever. So yeah, I mean, like that's Vivell's clearly his expertise, and listen, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm not saying that you're saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that it's not necessarily a bad thing because at least he would be an expert in something. His track record is very good. And I've been saying since we sort of got him in that, I mean, if you go through the list of players that he bring in at Leipzig, to me, it seems like he does have that sort of eye, along with, you know, using data and other stuff, I guess. But he does have sort of that eye to catch players at a very young age that have gone on to, you know, become good players, or players that Leipzig were able to develop and got in very early on them, and then were able to sell for, you know, large sums of money. And obviously Leipzig have sort of continued to do that even though he's not there. So it's not like he's the mastermind, but he did come up in that system, he did learn sort of the way. Brown Knight says I'd take Van de Ven. Some people are calling him Van de Can't Defend, or Van Can't Defend. Spurs are in free fall defo, yeah. Axe only being sold on Valverde last night. Rajat says we'll take Adeyemi. Well, we got to see about Adeyemi. One, I don't really trust Borussia Dortmund too much and their stories. And their whole thing. We don't really have a good sort of history with that. So we'll see how that goes. That was one of the most beautiful hat tricks in recent memory. It was, and especially because he did it against City and he did it against Pep, yeah, and did it very quickly in the first half, and he scored. I mean, beautiful goals. I had to double check at first because I was sort of watching two games at the same time yesterday. I had the PSG and Chelsea, and I had the City and the Real Madrid, and I missed one of the goals, and then I saw it back after, and I was like, wait, did he? I was like, on the third one, I was like, that's his hat trick. So yeah. Bach says I'd like Yildiz, but that move is very, very unlikely. I like Yildiz too. And for right now, it seems a bit difficult. I don't know if he just signed. Did he just sign a new contract? Because I got a friend that's a Juventus fan. I think he sent something to the group chat recently that he signed a new contract. So I think if that has happened, then we ain't going to get him now, are we? And we kind of have to hope a little bit on Juventus' downfall. Maybe we get a cut bargain. But I do like him. And I think he is one that maybe we could eventually, when the time comes to replace Bruno Fernandes, I would maybe like him there. We'll see how his development goes over the next couple of years as well. Steph says 5 likes, 16 watching. Yes. And thank you to everybody that smashed the like button, by the way, so far. Greatly appreciated. Box says, yeah, but I wanted a worldwide director of football. Well, he's head of recruitment, so he's not really director of football. I do sort of agree, though, that instead of I'm drawing a blank on his name now. Instead of our current director of football, okay, who seems to be fairly limited in terms of he's very familiar with English. The English Premier League. I don't know how far his sort of range in other, his expertise does not, I don't think it really ranges to Bundesliga, La Liga, okay? I would like somebody, yes, that is, on the levels of, I also forgot his name, but Luis Campos, okay? Luis Campos, okay, to me, is the ultimate sort of director of football. Because his knowledge for players spans in multiple different leagues. And he can go and get you players that he knows very well will fit the dynamic of the team and the squad and also the league that he's working for. And he's done a marvelous job at PSG. He's helped them win the Champions League because he sort of came in and took over the reins after they tried to do the whole, copycat Galacticos thing that didn't work out for them. And he's built a actual real team for them that has had, very good success. And they are a very good team now. And a very dangerous team. So I would like somebody like that. But, I think with the way things are going right now in our management, okay, we kind of need to wait. Because I do think that if things do tend to go wrong, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe will eventually throw our director of football under the bus, at some point, okay? And maybe Barada too. But maybe Barada sort of survives the axe at first, and Wilcox will get it. Because that sort of seems like where it's heading right now, okay? Because with the whole sort of mess with Ten Hag, not sacking him, then bringing Ruben in. Okay, this next series of things. Okay, the next appointment of the next manager, that's got to go well for him. If that doesn't go well, it's his head that's up next. And also, the transfers have to continue to go well as well, because he's, you know, a main part of that. So if he doesn't get these things right, you know, he is, in my opinion, the way I view it right now, he's next on the chopping block. He's the next one to sort of get all the blame and sort of being thrown under the bus and throw all the negative stuff on it. He'll lose his job. But right now, they don't really want to do that. I think once Sir Jim actually likes him, and, you know, to a certain degree, I think they have some sort of a, like, personal relationship like that, and he would like to keep Jason as much as possible. Number two, that's going to cost money, and you know, they have been very frugal or very strict in certain areas with money. You know, they didn't want to sack Ruben at the time that they sacked Ruben. Part of it was because of money. It would have been cheaper to do it in the summer. It would have been cheaper to do it at the end of the year because more time would have passed on, and they also didn't like, you know, the view of it. So if we can't get Yildiz, then get Mora. He will be quite amazing. Yeah, Mora played today. I was just watching him, actually. Rodrigo Mora, for those that don't know, the player, plays for FC Porto, young guy. He won't be cheap, though, I tell you that, because Porto have fixed up their finances, okay? And Porto is in a very strong place now, where they weren't so much so about two plus years ago, okay? And they got Andres Villas-Boas in charge of their football club, in terms of he is the president, and he has fixed them up very nicely, and he's been getting them all types of money. So that, he won't be cheap. He will be a player that they will probably demand 100 million for him or more. And I think he has a buyout clause as well, which is very, very high. So Fox says Van Hecke has 1 year left, and not signing a new deal could be a solid pickup with the Licha injury prone. Well, based on that, with the whole Delit Licha injury prone sort of thing, okay, we do have an update, okay, and one of these other players from RB Leipzig, okay, is a centre back who many of you may know, but his name goes by his name goes by Castello Lukeba, okay, centre back, highly rated Bundesliga star for RB Leipzig. And Manchester United are locked, apparently, in a fierce four-way battle with other top Premier League clubs to land the highly rated Bundesliga star. And there has been a little bit of an update about that in terms of the centre-back position, because we did get something to go along with that, in that there's been an update about Harry Maguire. Okay, he is one of our centre-backs, yes. But there's also been just sort of a general update / report that, and once I find it, this came from Team Talk, saying central defense has now become a top transfer priority for Manchester United, as the club plans to strengthen the back line ahead of the new season. And there was one that was, it sort of went further into that, basically saying that because of sort of injury concerns or injury proneness concerns to the likes of Harry Maguire, Licha Martinez, oddly they left out Matheus de Ligt out of that update, which I would include Matheus de Ligt as well, because there is also a small update on de Ligt. And, you know, Licha was supposed to be back, and we did get an update, I think, a day or two ago that basically said Licha isn't going to make it back for the Villa game, when we all expected him to be so. And Carrick was saying that it was a small injury, and that he would be back. Now, I don't know. Maybe he will be back. You know, I've been a bit busy. Maybe I missed sort of the update, but I did catch that update, which is not encouraging, because he's had 2 serious injuries, you know, that took him a really long time to recover from. And you do see he is very important. We are a bit of a different team when he's not there. We're also, you know, my father mentioned this the other day, you know, when I was talking to him about it, and he was like, we miss Licha. He's like, we're a different team without Licha. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, not just, it's not defensively either. It's really actually attacking wise as well, because Licha is very good at bringing the ball out of the back. He's very good at passing. You know, you have a centre back that breaks the lines the way Licha breaks the lines. and can pass the ball the way he passes the ball as a center back. Leitch essentially is almost our third midfielder in certain games, in certain matches when playing, because he can distribute the ball out of the back. You know, when we're coming out of the back and we push up and we're in the midfield line, Leitch is essentially almost like a third midfielder in some sense, which can allow the likes of Casemiro and Meno a little bit more freedom, a little bit more license to go forward, which we can then put more numbers, you know, against the defense, and overload them a little bit, and we can maybe break the lines a little bit more and find some more opportunities. And you know, we sort of miss him from that sense. You know, we could have used him definitely in a match like Newcastle, where you know, the midfield was struggling. We needed a bit of help. We needed somebody that could maybe just add another sort of tier to it. And you know, Euro, that's not really his strong suit, and he's a young guy and he's got a lot more to develop. And you know, Maguire can kind of bring the ball up. He can kind of pass. He's not like, you know, he's not ineffective in it, but I would say if I'm going to compare it to Leitch is way better than him at it. And obviously we know, you know, Leitch probably gets that because Leitch did play center defensive mid. He actually did play midfield. So he does have that ability. Now, real quickly, just to round out the whole center back thing, okay, there was an update from Nathan Salt, okay? He was on Stretford Paddock. All right. And he said, Nathan Salt said on De Ligt, he said he clearly has a bad back problem. And he believes that he doesn't think that De Ligt will play again this season, which is not a good update, and is a sort of a big concern. And, you know, again, for a guy that was supposed to be out for 2 weeks, and it's been well over 2 months now. It's been like 2.5 months. You know, it is very worrying. He does have sort of an extensive injury list from the past, okay? And last year, he went missing for some games, and this year, he's gone missing from even more games, and we've played less football, which is not a good sign. And I think it's very unfortunate because I really like Matheus de Ligt. I think many of us like Matheus de Ligt. Many of us rate Matheus de Ligt. We think he's a good player. I would say he is a very good player. I like him. But we've talked about this many times. You can't, a player that isn't available, that goes missing, and that gets injured a lot, it doesn't matter how good you are. You could be as good as, you know, you could be as good as Puyol, you could be as good as Ronaldinho, but if you ain't available, if you're missing for large parts of the season, we can't rely on you. You're not any good to us. You know, you are essentially, it sounds a bit harsh, but to a certain sense, you become quite useless. You know, we rely on some of these players. Like, we rely on De Ligt. He's a good player. And when he's in the side, we're a better team. And we rely on players like Leitch. And when he's in the side, we're a better team. You know, we would like to rely on Mason Mount because he can give us another aspect. But when you are getting injured and, you know, you're only around for a couple games, or you're missing large parts of the season or large amounts of matches, you know, you're essentially, you're just no good to us. You are useless. So it's a bit, you know, this center back thing might be one that maybe we weren't actually necessarily, you know, looking to do anything this upcoming summer about it. Maybe we were going to cover some other positions, central midfield, left wing, maybe a left wing back / maybe a right back, right wing back, or whatever it is. And then maybe we call it a day for that summer. And then we sort of go to the center back maybe the next season or so. But with De Ligt having this injury problem, with Leitch potentially, you know, coming, you know, his contract's coming down. I think he's coming close to about a year left. And, you know, he's had 2 bad injuries and he just got this injury. And it looks like, you know, he's turned into maybe somebody that might struggle with injuries. I mean, he is only going to get older, and it could worsen going forward. And the thing with Leitch, the problem with Leitch is we have to sort of make a decision because the contract's running down. So we either have to give him a new contract or we got to sell him. And it's a bit, for me, it's a bit difficult because, again, I rate him very highly. I think, I love him. I love the Butcher. I think he's very good. I think he adds an immense sort of, not only ability, but character to our squad. And when we don't have him, we do feel like a bit of a different team. We do feel like we are missing something. We're missing a bit of ourselves. But you give him a 4-year contract extension or whatever it is, okay? We're running the risk that, well, what happens as time goes on in the next year or 2 years, the injury problems start worsening. We then have signed a player that has become, sort of, we talked about PTSD earlier. I mean, Martial, Phil Jones, Luke Shaw has been one that's still here, in and out. And we obviously don't want that because, again, we can't rely on that. It's sort of a waste of space. We're wasting wages. And, we can't really have that in the team. Now, with Harry Maguire, okay, his contract is up at the end of the season. And there's been sort of this back and forth between United in that they're thinking about giving him some sort of a contract extension, but on reduced wages. There's been times where they say that Harry might not take it, but in recent times they're saying that he's willing to take a pay cut. Well, we got this from Pete Hall and the iPaper Sport today, saying Manchester United are yet to decide on offering Harry Maguire a new deal. A reduced contract of around £100,000 per week is being considered, with the defender open to the terms. They also go on to say a 2-year offer could be used as an incentive, but if no agreement is reached and he leaves, signing another centre-back will become a priority, which I think is sort of a bit of a default because we just talked about De Ligt and Martinez potentially being, concerns for injury proneness, or they have injury proneness and can be concerns for availability, next season, the season after. If Harry Maguire leaves, okay, we're down to 4 centre-backs, and 2 of them in Heaven and Euro are still on the younger side and still need to develop more. And, maybe we can't lean on them too heavily in terms of they might not be able to be our starting centre-back pairing for the season, okay? And then you have De Ligt and Martinez, who, with the way things have gone with them, they can go at any time. And, you sort of put that in perspective. We're going to go into Champions League. We're going to be playing top teams. We're going to be playing, 2 to 3 matches a week at times during next season. We're going to want to go, far in the FA Cup, if not win it, the Carabao Cup, and all other trophies that we can, the league. We can't really have, basically, in what it feels like to me, is about 2.5 to 3 centre-backs. Because, with De Ligt and Martinez, you just don't know. Like, Martinez could come out next season and he could just be, pretty non-injury prone and sustain most of the season. And just have, like, the general small injury, maybe he misses a match or 2, the typical whatever. But even if that happens, with the way that De Ligt is sort of trending and has been trending, last season he missed a substantial amount. This season he's missed more. Okay, it's a bit of a worry. You can't just have 3 centre-backs. So we would have to go and get one if Harry Maguire leaves, by force, because of the circumstances. So we do got to see and check up on that. Van de Ven, kind of a great centre-back, but he's very mistake-prone as well. Well, I think part of the problem with Van de Ven is that right now, if you look at the Tottenham squad, it kind of feels like our team when we got in Ralph Rangnick. That's kind of how I see Spurs. I kind of see the Spurs players as they're fed up, they can't be asked, they don't want to play, they don't give a shit, they ain't trying. Players are basically on the pitch and they don't give a single fuck, and they're just doing basically whatever they want. I mean, players are getting red cards, they're not doing their job properly, they don't care, You know, they're just giving that sort of vibes. Like it's totally gone out the window for them. So, you know, Van de Ven and all of them have been playing like absolute shit. But it's not just like it's just Van de Ven, and I would raise concerns on, well, you know, maybe it doesn't look too well. I think that whole ecosystem there is just, you know, completely 100% negative. It's completely 100% broken. And, you know, so I think that's why you're seeing mistakes. You're seeing, you know, the players just aren't, they're not interested. They're not interested. So, I mean, it would depend for me ultimately how much money Tottenham would ask for. I don't think I wouldn't pay 80 million for him. I wouldn't pay 100 million for him. If you could get him for a good price. Yeah, he's very fast, but being very fast isn't the be-all and end-all. It's a very big plus for a centre-back, but you can get decently fast centre-backs or mobile centre-backs that might be able to provide a little bit more than he does. So it's got to be for a decent price. Lawrence is here, says Bonsoir. Ideally, 6 players for 300 million in the summer, but I think we'll be more around 200 million again. Likely Baleba, Gomez, Diomande, plus either a center half or a spare striker. I don't think they're going to get a spare striker. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're interested in doing that. I think that we sort of look at our attack and say our plan B under Ruben, under Carrick is if Sesko doesn't play, you know, it's not really Joshua Zirkzee. Joshua Zirkzee is probably the one that you would say would maybe be sort of a, you know, spare striker, I guess. And he's one that doesn't really get used under either. And really, the tactic of that has been Brian and Mbeumo at striker or Cunha and having a sort of a rotating front three, maybe playing even a false 9. Even though under Carrick, Mbeumo hasn't really been playing a false 9, he's been playing actually more like a advanced forward, where he does try to break the lines and we do try to send balls over the top to him and for him to run onto it. So I don't think we'll be in for a spare striker. I can't really see that happening. Maybe, you know, maybe it does happen, but I don't see it. We're not linked to anybody in that sort of area. The midfield definitely, okay. You know, and Elliot Anderson has been the one that's been sort of running the news, okay. Baleba seems like he may be able to go for a cut price to what he was originally priced at because of the season he had. Bach says he'd avoid Baleba, and some people have that concern because of the way he's gone. But I do think at 21 years of age, again, I think it depends on the price. Because I think you would definitely be a bit wary to say, why we paying 80 to 100 million? Look at the season he just had. He's 21 years old. We've seen him good, and we've seen him sort of bad this season. We've seen him good last season. So we know what high he can hit, and there's a lot of room to grow, okay? In the sense that he is 21, and he's a bit like Heaven or Euro. Like, they're not complete. There's a lot more room for them to become stronger, stable players. But, yeah, it would obviously have to be for, like, a good price. I mean, if you pay 60 million for Baleba, I think it's probably worth the risk at 21 years of age, playing at the Premier League. And I do feel like a part of it is that he is, you know, unhappy at Brighton, and he wanted to move and he didn't get to move, and I do feel like he's a bit uninterested, and especially with the way this season has gone for Brighton, which hasn't been, you know, sort of below what they've done in recent times. So, Yildiz signed till 2030, yeah. So. Brown Knight says, I didn't even bother watching PSG Chelsea. Chelsea, is that irrelevant? Well, you know what? It was actually a really good game. It was better than the Madrid one because, you know, that one was over quite quickly. Box will want Fellaini back. Box says we would take Warren Anderson and Boadi. I lost a lot. I don't even know where I was. Warren Anderson, Boadi. Yeah, I think Anderson's probably the one that we're going to try to go for first because of the competition with Manchester City. Now, I don't know how this one's going to spin necessarily for us because there's some concerns that seem to be reports leaning that Manchester City are in pole position and they are leading the way, and that maybe Elliot Anderson favors the move to them, but I don't think anything's been set and confirmed. And I actually believe more so that he hasn't decided, and the decision won't be made until after the World Cup. So we do got to see on that one. I am very behind in the chat, so I apologize if I skip some of it, but I do want to catch up. Daily Mail journalist has sensed De Ligt has a fatality. I also heard rumors of a difficult divorce, and I still suspect there were physical problems before he arrived last season. He also missed a lot. He has had some sort of bad injuries in the past. Bayern, Ajax, Juventus. So, you know, he is, what is he, 25, 26? I mean, he's not that old. You know, he's sort of mid-age. In terms of a player, sort of coming close to his prime or about to enter his prime. But yeah, you know, the centre back situation is a bit difficult because it's a difficult decision to make. But we're either gonna rely on them, and it's either gonna work out for us or it's gonna bite us in the ass. So you know, it's sort of a big call for me there. Because it's not really straightforward and clear cut. Anything can sort of happen, and you can sort of buy into a bit of the panic, I guess, or the fear of that we can't trust them, they're injury prone, and we need to cover our ass. Or you could be like, you know, try to work through it. But that you know, for us, it hasn't necessarily gone well, right? When we've dealt with players that may be potentially injury prone or have had sort of a bad injury history. It hasn't gone well for us. Typically, their condition tends to worsen at United, and typically they have been mostly not available, more than available for us. You know, and we still are dealing with a bit of an aspect of this. All right, we still have the likes of Luke Shaw, who this season has been able to be available, but all the other seasons before that hasn't. And we bought a player like Mason Mount who has struggled since we bought him, you know, and that was probably a bad buy on our part, considering, you know, the surgery he had and all that. De Ligt had a bit of an injury, you know, list before we bring him in, okay? And Martinez, obviously, he had the botched surgery, and then he had the bad injury the following season on his comeback. And he just came back to us, and you know, it was good to have him back, but he's gotten an injury again. So, Max, nobody's deleting your comments. Stop accusing people of doing things that's not happening. You are not being canceled. Stop playing fake victim. Your comments are being erased because you're saying things that YouTube will not allow you to say. Yeah, that's no. Otherwise, I can't understand the certainty of some of a multi-goal victory over Villa on Sunday, even if it's on my birthday. Dark Crow says, I would still blame the Spurs players for lack of professionalism, as no matter how or who the managers, they're supposed to give their 100%. No, listen, totally. I mean, it was the same for us, okay? Like, the way I see Spurs is what happened to us under Rangnick, okay? They pretty much gave up on Oli at the end. Oli got sacked. They bring in Rangnick. They played his football for about 45 minutes, and then they said, fuck this, and it was a complete disaster. And, you know, when that happens, there's no saving you. So, luckily for us, at that time, we weren't in a position as bad as Spurs are. Spurs are quite fucked, because if they have going on what happened to us in that situation, and they're in the position that they are in the league, you know, the chances of going down are quite high. I mean, and the manager is in a bit of a, you know, over there, he's in a bit of a fucked situation, because obviously he dropped a bunch of players for that match against Atletico Madrid, because, you know, what you're going to do? He came out, he made a strong statement saying, listen, if you're on the ship or you want to be on the ship, stay. If you don't, get off. Basically, accusing them of the downing tools, and I don't want people that are downing tools. Like, you're either on program or fuck off. And he made the change, and they got destroyed because their squad isn't very good, and they don't have the talent and the depth. So they went up against a strong Atletico Madrid team, Diego Simeone, and all that, and they were away. And yeah, he's the whole thing is a mess. And it ain't really his fault either. Maybe he's not qualified, maybe he's not good enough. But I mean, Spurs have messed that whole fucking thing up. So. Watching Anderson for Forest currently, got a shot on him too. Yep, he does have a shot. He likes to shoot. He likes to shoot. He takes many shots in Nottingham or for Nottingham, playing. So, does Anderson want to be Rodrigo's substitute? I don't know what that means. Rajat says we'll take Hemland from Sporting since he got Arsenal tattoo. Huh? I am writing things and it gets deleted. Again, nobody is deleting anything, okay? And your comments are not popping up. So whatever you're writing, YouTube is blocking you from writing it. I don't know what you're writing, but you are, let's put it this way, you are the only person that has this problem, okay? So I don't know what you write, but you are the only one that has this problem, okay? Nobody else complains about anything, their comments getting deleted. So I don't know what you're trying to write, but I ain't doing it. And I can guarantee you, nobody else is doing it. Because one, I would see the comment pop up. And two, I would see it be removed. And it would tell us that it's being removed, okay? And it would say it would be being removed. So nobody is doing anything to you, other than maybe YouTube, all right? So yeah, we don't do that, okay? Unless you say something really fucking bad, okay? But we never do that. We haven't had to do that. All right. So, but moving on, okay? Because we do have other news. All right, and a couple updates. We were just talking about Elliot Anderson. All right, so one update here: Nathan Salt again on Stretford Paddock. All right, Elliot Anderson is the top target for the midfield, as it's been stated. But sources close to him are skeptical that United will match the wages needed in a potential bidding war. Multiple clubs are interested. While player preference can override money, as seen with Cunha, Sesko, and Mbeumo choosing United, despite higher offers, Anderson's desire to become the long-term cornerstone of United's midfield could be a decisive factor. However, United are currently restructuring the wage bill, which may limit what they can offer. My whole thing on this is, and I'm tired of this restructuring the wage bill bullshit, okay? Because at this moment in time, it's bullshit, okay? We have significantly already restructured the wage bill. We are, when Ed Woodward was here, we were number one in wage bill, and we had the highest wage bill, and we were also getting fuck all in return for it, in terms of we weren't very good, and we weren't really winning things, and we weren't challenging for the Premier League. That's no longer the case. We have like the 7th, 6th highest wage bill in the country, or in the league, I guess you can say. All right. So what are we continuing to restructure? There's nothing really left to restructure. Casemiro is going and Rashford is going, okay? What else is there to restructure? The restructuring, in my opinion, has already happened. We're already down in the list. And I keep saying this because I think United fans, at once upon a time, we had a right point to be like, the wages are too high and they need to be lowered because these players are overpaid and they don't deserve the wage that they're getting because they haven't earned it. They're not accomplishing things. But that is no longer the case. if we have the 6th, 7th highest wage bill in the league, we can't actually go lower. Because if we go into having the 10th or 11th, well, we're spending like a mid-table club. And you want a team that spends like a mid-table club to ultimately go win the Premier League. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not with the way City is spending money. Not with the way that Arsenal are going to go spend money. They look set to win the league. They're going to go and spend more money. Liverpool are going to go spend more money. Okay? So, I don't like this whole, United are currently restructuring the wage bill. What are we restructuring? If anything, okay, there are certain players that we should be able to, like, I'm not saying give them $350,000 a week, but there's got to be incentives, and you got to be able to compete. This is another problem that we have, and this is another problem that I have with Ineos. I understand, do smart business that makes sense financially wise. I don't want them overspending, but you do have to find a middle ground. You can't just try and do everything on the cheap and say we're gonna compete to the highest level, because it don't work like that either. So you got to figure out a way to be smart about this, okay? They might offer him a higher upfront packaged wage, but we can offer him maybe a better project vision, deal, outlook, incentives, more prominent role, whatever it is. But I don't accept this thing of United restructuring the wage bill. There's nothing to restructure anymore, really. To a certain degree, there's nothing really, like, we signed the players that we signed. We gave them the wages they did. There might be like 1 or 2 players lingering, but we're not even in the same situation that we were once upon a time ago, maybe like 5-6 years ago. So we've already restructured it. It's already basically restructured. The only furtherance of the restructuring is getting a player that may be worth actually £200,000 a week and giving that to him, and then leaving the door open to, well, if it goes really well here and you help us win things or become a stronger team and perform a lot better, well, then you'll get an even higher wage. Like, there should always be the door open to that. And if the player earns it on the pitch and helps us transform as a team, then they should get it. We shouldn't limit ourselves because, let's not turn into Spurs here. Because that's what Spurs have done. And that's how Spurs have ended up in the position that they're in. Because they have refused to go and get a certain level of player that demands a certain level of a wage, because they have a certain level of talent, and they cap themselves. And this has been a long time coming for them, because they had Pochettino, which was the highest, and ever since Pochettino, they've gone down. Because they keep getting less and less better players, because they cap the wage to a certain thing. You can only compete so high of a level once you cap yourself. You're excluding yourself from getting a certain level type of player by doing that. You sometimes you got to make an exception for a certain player, a certain talent, where you sort of have to break the general mold. But that's why it's important to understand scouting and talent ID, because you got to make that call right at the end of the day. Anyway, another update, okay, about Elliot Anderson. Manchester United and Manchester City are both pushing to sign Elliot Anderson, as we know. But United will only move forward if the player approves, of course. How convenient for us. He's also set to start for Nottingham Forest. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. But it does seem right now that sort of the battle is between us and Manchester City, which is, my sort of, I don't know if my intuition, my instinct, my gut. But it is a bit hard to compete with City when they are willing to spend, the money that we typically don't want to spend. Okay, and it's not really about it's not the transfer price, it's the wages. It's the wages, which will probably boil down to it. Because if you look at what they just did with the signings that they got, the wages they gave them, we probably wouldn't give them those wages. So if it comes down to that, we're gonna lose out on this deal. We won't get Elliot Anderson. So it hinges on really what else can we offer him besides the wages? How well can we sell it to him? Okay. And what does he prioritize? Because there's a lot of boxes that tick for joining City. You'll get a higher wage. Okay. There's Pep Guardiola. All right. They've won way more things than us in the past 10 years. They're always in Champions League. So it's it's more stable. It's more probably, dead on. So there's a lot of things that we can't really beat them out on. The only thing is that we could beat them out on is, again, we have to be a bit more convincing in the project and sell it to them with words. Maybe we could do a fucking, AI video like we did for Sesko. And I say that jokingly because I don't think they were so impressed by the AI video. It was just, he liked Manchester United. We gave him the shirt. He put it on and it just felt right to him. So he was like, yeah, Manchester United. But, yeah, with Elliot Anderson, I don't know. I could see us not winning this battle and sort of losing out on him. And then we have to go sort of in a different route and get different players. But ultimately, I mean, that's sort of life, and that's a bit of football as well. You're not going to get every main target you make, and, even in the past when we had Fergie, same shit happened. Like, there was players there that we wanted that we ended up never getting, and you have to pivot. And that's where your sort of expertise and, knowledge and, just being good at your job gets shit done. Because if we miss out on Elliot Anderson or we lose the battle to Manchester City, we're going to have to pivot. And whoever we go and get after that, well, whoever it is that comes in, they're going to... It's got to be somebody that works out for us. So, because we can't afford to mess this up. We need this taken care of. So, we'll take Ange or no, bro. Absolutely not. What are you, crazy? What are you trolling me? Ange? Hell no. Hell no. I do fear that Roberto De Zerbi is going to be in the running. Like, I do kind of feel like at this moment in time, as we stand here, that it will be between... Roberto De Zerbi is going to be at the top of the list, next to Michael Carrick, and maybe one other guy. Because Roberto De Zerbi is still very much liked. And he still remains high with senior figures at Manchester United. And they admire his football, and he's available. And we don't have to pay for him. And, we could just sign him. So, I do think he's up there. And actually, we did have an update about that said Roberto De Zerbi is understood to be keen on the head coach job at Manchester United. That's also another factor. Like, he wants to take the United job, which United and the people running us, they love that shit. Because, one, it's easier, and I can kind of understand that. It's a bit less time consuming. You have to waste less time, I guess less resources, and maybe it's easier to do a deal if somebody is wanting than if you have to convince them. But also, that doesn't mean that they are necessarily always the best option. So, De Zerbi's stock remains high with senior figures at United, admiring his front foot style of attacking football and how he wants his team to dominate the ball. Well, the thing is, I sort of do want that style. I don't know if he will be the guy to actually get it implemented, but, the way PSG play football, I would like that football. I would like a sort of front foot, direct, high attacking football. We need players. We need better players to execute it. at a high level. But I've criticized the team a few times where I say, like, we don't make runs enough sometimes, and I don't like necessarily the constant checking from the wingers. And, you know, when you watch PSG or you know, even Barcelona, for that example, like, they have more license to just have a go. And I kind of want that aspect back at Manchester United. I miss that aspect in our football, and I think it would actually do us good if we can sort of get that back in. And in some of these past recent matches, I think that's been one of our issues, is that we stutter a bit. We don't. Our wingers don't necessarily pick up the ball and just drive at the defense and make shit happen. And maybe they're not confident enough. Maybe they're not good enough. And maybe it's just a tactical thing. But, yeah, like, I would like that sort of thing. I'm not sold on the Zirkzee. So, you know, I don't really know how that would go, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, we're not going to find out anything until basically, like, you know, the season is over. So, and we'll see what sort of decision they make, or, you know, what's being talked about there. This was the update that I was looking for before, by the way. But another guy that has been mentioned at centre-back, okay, because there's been a lot of centre-back talk, is Murillo, who is the centre-back at Nottingham Forest, who I rate. I think he's a very good centre-back, okay? And sort of the updates around this at centre-back is that for Murillo, Manchester United have begun compiling a centre-back shortlist after Lisandro Martinez suffered another injury. Murillo is among the players being considered, with Ineos valuing his youth and Premier League experience. Centre-back wasn't a priority for the summer, but injuries have pushed the club to explore defensive reinforcements, which is how I felt, because we weren't really looking at centre-backs. There was no talk about centre-backs. And again, you kind of looked at it before Martinez got injured and before De Ligt went missing for 2.5 months. Okay, I was like, we have 5 centre-backs. I would, with Harry included, I would give Harry Maguire a 1-year contract extension at a reduced wage. Okay, do the midfield, maybe get in the left winger, you know, some sort of a left wing back or a left back or right back, whatever, and go from there. And spend some quality money on some quality players. Get, like, you know, I think the most we'll do is 4. You know, maybe we could do 5, but I think 4 will probably be the number that we do. And then go from there. And go into that season, see what we can get out of there. I think that should be enough for us to, you know, have a good campaign. And then I would look to do a deal in January, but of course I don't have any expectations of this club to do so. So it would lead us into the next summer, and then the next summer you'd have Maguire's, basically his contract would be up and he's pretty much done. And then you know, it'd also be maybe another year to assess really how Martinez and De Ligt, how it's gone for them, and if they were injury prone again or they missed, you know, a lot of matches. We'd have to try and get rid of both of them and sort of focus a lot of the money, kind of how we did on the attack and how we're going to do on the midfield. We're going to have to do it in the central of defense. So, what has De Zerbi got that Carrick hasn't? If they employ a head coach who isn't considerably superior in comparison to Carrick, the whole squad will be demoralized. Well, I don't know if they will be demoralized, but the only thing that De Zerbi probably has instead of Carrick is experience in terms of amounts of years being a manager at a couple different teams. But in terms of success, I mean, there's nothing really. I mean, it's not like he's won leagues. Okay, he's not, you know, he hasn't won, you know, he didn't win the French league, he didn't win the Premier League. You know, I don't even know what trophies the guy has. So it's not like, it's not a huge gulf. in class. They are very close to each other in terms of accolades, I guess I would say. In that regard, it's not like, you know, Ancelotti versus Carrick, or, you know, or like Hansi Flick or something. Okay. But he has been managing since 2013. Okay, so he does have, you know, 10 plus years as a manager, where Carrick does not have 10 plus years as a manager. Okay, Carrick's just sort of, you know, kind of starting out. So there's the only difference. But, you know, in terms of levels, I mean, Roberto De Zerbi has never actually managed a big club like Manchester United. So I would kind of put that a bit in Carrick's camp, in that, you know, Carrick has at least played for us and can understand the pressures and understand sort of the club itself and how to handle certain situations. And he's not going to be necessarily taken aback by, you know, the comments or, you know, the expectations or anything like that. Whereas, like, for De Zerbi, he could very well do, because, I mean, he's managed, you know, lower teams in the Serie A. He then managed, like, Palermo, Sassuolo. He managed Shakhtar Donetsk, Brighton, of course, for 2 seasons or 2 years, and then Marseille for 2 years or 2 seasons. So he doesn't actually have, like, the expertise in terms of coming into a club. Like, where is the, you know, he hasn't managed a United, Juventus, and Inter Milan, an AC Milan, a Barcelona, Real Madrid, you know. So I don't see him as, like, anything sort of exceptionally special, where you would say, yeah, forget about Carrick, De Zerbi all the way, because he's so much better than him. So, I mean, you know, and I don't, and he hasn't lasted in many clubs. You know, the clubs that he's managed at, he doesn't have a really a record of lasting there for a long time anyway. Like, Sassuolo, I think, and maybe Shakhtar. No, Sassuolo is his longest tenure, which was from 2018 to 2021. Shakhtar Donetsk, he did a year. Okay, he did 2 years at Brighton, or 2 seasons, and he's done 2 years or 1.5 seasons at Marseille. So he hasn't even lasted anywhere he's gone as well. So I don't really. I mean, if he comes in, I'll give him a chance, and, you know, I'll see how it goes, and I'll back him. But it doesn't fill me with the utmost confidence that he's going to be the guy that's going to get us to actually be good and stabilize us. So I don't know. To me, my thinking keeps going to the point of that if they're serious about, you know, sort of the project that they've been claiming that they're about, and that they want to get the things done that they want to get done, then you have to go for a high-level manager. And, you know, I keep sort of making this link. I mean, Jose Mourinho was our best manager post Sir Alex Ferguson. He had done the best, and he had the best CV out of everybody we had. He had the most accomplishments. He was the best manager. I mean, you know, he won Premier Leagues with Chelsea. He won the Champions League with Porto. He won everything that you could pretty much win. He did it at the highest level. And we bring him in, and yeah, our club was being run like a shit show, but he still has done the best in terms of achievements at our football club post Sir Alex. When you start looking at everything else, well, after Mourinho, we started going, in a certain sense, the club started going downhill, but we also, appointments manager-wise, started going on the lower end. Okay? Like, Solskjaer was a manager that, other than him knowing United, what was his credentials? You know, he didn't do well at the teams that he managed in. He got relegated with one of the teams. He didn't have loads of experience. Didn't end well for him. We got Erik ten Hag. Okay, he did good at Ajax. All right, and he won us trophies in terms of the FA Cup and the Carabao, but you know, didn't end well for him either. We got in Ruben Amorim. He won the league with Sporting, but other than that, there's nothing. So I kind of think like if we ought to push as high as possible, well, we need somebody with great stature. Otherwise, we are taking a similar risk to either Erik ten Hag or Ruben Amorim. You don't know what you're going to get. They haven't done it at the highest level, and it's sort of a big task for them because they're going to have to figure out how to get over sort of that line, that hump, and they've never done it really in their careers before. And Manchester United is not really a place for you to kind of figure that out. So Carrick will get more leeway because it's Carrick, but if you get somebody like De Zerbi, or you get somebody like Glasner, or you get somebody like Roberto Martinez, okay, they're not going to get the leeway that Carrick gets, and you gotta basically, you'll have a little bit of a cushion, but after some point, you better be, you know, firing on all cylinders, or you're going to get crushed. And we'll be in the same situation again, where we will sack another manager, and, you know, we'll be sort of floating in a direction that we don't know what's actually going to happen and where we're going. And we sort of have to start in that department all over again. And we need to stop doing that as well. So, personally, I would be making every effort to try and go get the best manager possible in terms of the greatest accomplished, highest accolade, done it for many years at the highest end of the game, at high-end teams, and get them in and have a real go. Because I think we need that to compete going forward. So, he looks like he's drunk every time. Well, yeah. I mean, actually, I just saw a photo of him here. He does look like he's drunk. Renault saw a video about De Zerbi, and he's somewhat of a one-hit wonder on tactical innovation. I'll find it and share it in the Discord. Yeah, do so. But I don't think he will ever be as significant as he once was. Well, and again, like, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be honest here, as I usually am. But I didn't even really rate him when he was at Brighton. Okay, in terms of, not that I said that he was a bad manager, but I always just felt like the conversation, for whatever reason, tends to happen a lot in English football, and it tends to happen a lot in the Premier League, because I guess he was in the Premier League, but I just felt like there was a lot of smoke being blown up his ass, because for I don't know what reason, because it's Brighton, and he's like some Italian dude, and he was doing a good job at Brighton, or Brighton were performing better than people expected, so I always feel like there's this hype train for whatever reason, and it shifts around in England, and they always find some person somewhere to sort of blow a lot of smoke up their ass and make them bigger than they actually are. And that's how I always felt about that. Like, he was linked to us a couple times before he went to Marseille, and I was never really sure on him at that time either. I was like, well, again, I was like, he's done a good job maybe at Brighton, and they were playing some good football, but I was like, I don't know how that would go at Manchester United. I don't know. I do see our club as one that, like, we probably got to stop pissing about in that area, because it's a high-level job and high pressure, and it will fucking crush you, and it's crushed many a people, okay? And there's a lot of, like, fine margin things, okay? There's the pressure, there's the demand. But then there's also the aspect of, well, the club has to be being run right as well, and the club has to be doing the right things. You combine all these things, and I sort of see it as like a chair with 4 legs. And if one leg is weak and snaps, the fucking chair is going down, you know? And that's kind of how I see it. Like, if he can't handle the pressure, if he can't handle the demands, if he hasn't hit that level as a manager to deal with the size of a club like Manchester United with the expectations, well, the chair is going to snap. If he's strong enough and good enough and he figures out how to do that, but the club is operating like shit, buying shit players, recruitment is shit, and, we have terrible players, well, the other leg on the other side of the chair is going to snap, and it's going to fall anyway. So, I don't really see him as the best possible choice. Even with Carrick, and this is why I think Manchester United hierarchy, they need to make clear what is the actual plan. And when they make the decision, they need to state it clearly. Because I think, one, it's bad for them, okay? But it's also just bad in general for our club. You don't promise people we're going to do something, amazing. But in the meantime, we're doing, actions that are essentially average or mediocre. Don't promise us greatness and then do sort of average moves. Because you're not going to achieve greatness with average. It's just not going to happen. So, to me, I sort of see the direction of the club. You can set it in 2 ways. You make it very clear that, like, okay, we kind of bullshitted you on this fucking, 2028, whatever it is, win the Premier League, okay? We're going to take a bit longer. We're building something. Give us the patience. We're building up in levels, okay? Because if you go with Carrick, again, I still think somebody like Carrick, somebody like Zirkzee, or some shit like that, I still see them as, it's going to take them probably 3 seasons, 4 seasons, if you're going to win a Premier League. Arteta, it's taken him about 6. He hasn't done it yet, but this is the closest he's ever been. Okay, it's taken him 6 years. If you're going to get a Luis Enrique or a Carlo Ancelotti, then you can sort of say, yeah, we're looking to do this in the next, 2 seasons. Because it's just like a different level. It's a different aspect. So, Nuggets men in, or we ought to keep Carrick? Well, I don't know what they're going to do. So, I'm just going to wait for them to make the decision, because I'm going to drive myself crazy trying to fucking figure out what's actually going to work and what's not. I have absolutely no clue. So, hopefully, we just get to a decision soon, and we can all just fucking move on, because I'm already quite tired of this whole back and forth situation. It's quite boring. I just want to know who we got, so I can know what the picture looks like. Because to me, again, if we're going with Carrick, I'm looking at our sort of future in a different way than if you get me Luis Enrique or you get me Carlo Ancelotti or a manager of that level. It's 2 completely different paths. It's 2 completely different roads, and then the whole thing is different. So if they pick Carrick, cool, but I'm going about it one way. If it's somebody to the level of, they've won titles, they've managed big clubs, they've won the Champions League, then I'm looking at it a totally different way. And I'm going to have totally different expectations. But until they make this decision, I don't know what's going to come out of it. Rajat says, okay, then let's get Eric Ten Heisenberg back. That's probably the best route, or let's take Mancini. Well, Ten Hag's never come back. And why would you want Mancini? So yeah. We did have this update on the stadium that we do need to cover real quick. Okay, so this is coming from the Sun. All right, the Sun. I think somebody else reported it as well. Not only the Sun, but the one that I have here is from the Sun. Okay, and Manchester United's planned, and this is not good news for any of us. Okay, and you know, it might be good news maybe because you might see it as maybe a point that's you know, sort of sticks it to the Glazes and to Ineos, I guess, to a certain degree. But I don't really see it quite positive for the club in general because it's about more money being spent and concern of where this money is coming from and how that money is going to affect be put on the club and how it has to get paid back at some point in time. So Manchester United, okay, Manchester United's planned 100,000 seat new stadium, initially estimated at £2 billion, is now expected to exceed £3 billion due to delays. All right. The major obstacle is a land dispute. The club offered £50 million for a site owned by Freightliner Group, but the company is reportedly demanding £400 million, which could force the use of a compulsory purchase order. Experts warn the project could continue rising in cost, possibly needing another £1 billion, and also take at least 10 more years, pushing completion beyond mid-2030s. Recent comments from Sir Jim Ratcliffe may also complicate approval processes, although the club insists the stadium will be fully private funded. Yeah, I think that that's not really, you know, maybe it could be good at some point because if this overcomplicates and this sort of whole Ineos, you know, in charge of the football aspect doesn't go well and doesn't lead to like positive results, maybe the whole thing just collapses out from under them. They can't get the stadium. It takes too long. They can't get the money. Results on the pitch aren't great. We lose sponsorships, and maybe it forces them into a sale. Maybe it forces United into a quite fucked position that they can no longer stick around and wait if it does get pushed back to the mid-2030s. But it could also be to the effect that this just means that we get stuck with them for way longer than maybe we would, because obviously there's been some hope, or some people view it as these guys are just trying to fucking keep themselves afloat till they get the stadium so that they can start bringing in the money from the stadium. They'll have a brand new stadium, then they'll ship the club off, sell it for a massive amount of money, and then fuck off. So, I mean, I'm concerned that it was initially estimated at $2 billion and now is expected to exceed $3 billion because, again, we are in $1 billion in debt. And, okay, it's going to be privately funded, but privately funded, the money is still coming from somewhere where they expect to get money back. So if it's going to cost $3 billion, it's only making it $1 billion more expensive for us to pay back whoever the money is coming from, or wherever the money is coming from, which is only going to take longer. If it takes 10 years to pay back $2 billion, it's going to take maybe 15 years to pay back $3 billion, which could generally affect us spending money, etc., etc. Also, maybe it could affect future sale of the football club. So it's not ideal, as I see it right now. Now, maybe with this sort of complication and this problem, maybe this does fuck up Ineos and the Glazers' sort of plan. And if things don't go particularly well on the pitch, okay, and we don't perform well, and we become, or we just maintain a sort of shit status, okay, and we lose money from, like, not being in the Champions League, and, you know, we just become quite mediocre over the next, you know, let's just say 5 years, well, maybe they just are like, let's just get the fuck out, because this situation has all gone to shit. We can't get the stadium. The stadium is you know, is basically, it's gone way over. It's going to take way too long. And we're losing money all over the place. We're losing money in sponsorship deals. We can't get the sponsors we once used to get to. We can't continue to operate in the way that we were doing. And maybe they just get put in a position where they're just like, we got to sell it now and get the fuck out before we continue to maybe the valuation continues to drop. I don't know, though, because, again, like, the Glazers just seem to have some sort of connection somewhere where they just seem to get away with shit. They seem to get away with shit. They seem to know shit. They seem to be able to weasel and, you know, their way into shit going their way. So, you know, I don't... I tend to more often than not give the Glazers the benefit of the doubt that shit will go their way. I've learned a hard lesson because I think people sort of play it in a simplification way that at some point the Glazers will get in a position where they get ultimately fucked, and ultimately what that translates to is the Glazers will ultimately take a fat L. And, you know, it always seems to me like this sort of dream scenario where the Glazers, because of the way they've sort of operated our football club, right, which we see is obviously like, you know, a disgrace and a travesty of what they've done, that karma will somehow get them back and they will monumentally fuck up their position and they will monumentally be in a situation where they get completely fucked and they will be forced to sell the club, which I do feel like is a bit of a fantasy thing going on here, in that because people hate the Glazers and people don't like the Glazers, and, you know, they view the running of the club so much so wrong that they're like, well, they surely, because of the way they've run it atrociously, that it has to come and bite them back in the ass. And my whole thing to that is, yeah, but where's the proof of that? Because as far as we can see, and as far as we can tell, and as far as things has happened, somebody please point out to me in any sort of period where you can sit there and definitively point at a certain situation and say the Glazers took a giant L on that. I don't see it. I can't name one situation where I can say the Glazers have taken an actual L in this situation. And I don't think they actually can, and I don't think they will. So I don't really buy into that whole thing. And more so than none, I actually look at it as they won't get fucked. They will find out a way, one way or another, because that's just what they do. Somehow, some way. They keep getting away with shit. They keep doing things that just allows them to continue to leech off the club and make money, and the valuation keeps going up, and, you know, they're surviving here, and nothing has come to them where it's like, oh, this is it for them. So I don't really see that happening. So, and this worries me a bit because the way I view them, they are greedy bastards, and also they are in no rush in any sort of way. There is no, you know, a lot of people say, like, why don't you just take the money and fuck off into the sunset? And it's like, because they don't have to. They don't care. You know, it's not like they don't need it. They don't need the cash. They don't, like, they will get nothing out of it in terms of getting that cash. What are they going to do after? You know, they have something that they hold an asset on that they believe, and they've stated this for a very long time, but they believe, and they keep saying that they believe that will continue to go up in price and is going to be worth a lot more money. And if you're in the aspect of business and you ain't really have plans to go anywhere, it's not like they're going to retire and go fucking live on, like, some island somewhere and just, you know, sit on a beach and fucking do nothing. Like, this is what they do. This is, like, their life. They will not get rid of something that they truly believe is going to go up in price in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They're going to hold it for as long as you know, as long as they can, or as long as they want. So this stadium getting delayed, it could be good because maybe it fucks up their whole plan and maybe they can't sustain it. But without the full picture, we won't really know. And it could be bad because that means that this whole thing could take way longer, which would mean that they're going to stick around for way longer than we would obviously like them to. So, Renosa says, Eric, I'm 41. Can you just promise me we will win the league and a Champions League double before I'm fucking 50, please? I wish I could, my friend. I wish I could, but I don't know, when we'll win again. I can't even promise that to myself. Sometimes I think, like, surely it's got to happen, in the next 10 years. We'll figure it out because you look at sort of the cycles of football and you say, all right, 20-year cycle is pretty much like the maximum for a lot of sort of big clubs, or like Liverpool had periods, we had periods, some other clubs like Madrid or Barca, they've had periods like you go sort of missing for 20 years, 20, maybe 25 maximum. Some other clubs, they were at the top of the world and you don't see them for another fucking 45 years and they totally like sort of disappear and never come back. But, sometimes I sit here and I'm like, surely surely it can't continue for much longer, okay? Because we're like at, what are we at? The 12, 13 year mark? 2013? So it's 13 years? So surely in the next 10 years, we got to get it sorted out because that'll be 23 years. Without a Premier League or a Champions League trophy. Surely by that time, the era has to like change and it has to become something else. But then also I kind of sit here and I'm just like, sometimes I think I'm going to be fucking like 72 and we're still going to be fucking no Premier League, no Champions League. And I'll be an old man. And I'll be like telling my fucking grandkids that like, yeah, when I was like 14, we were the fucking greatest. And I'm like 72 now. And we haven't been good for fucking like some 35, 40 years. So, I don't know. With these guys here, the Glazers, like, it's just like, it's so hard to determine because they're not like there's been some bad owners, but these guys are just a special type of, to put it bluntly, they're special types of what I would say, cocksuckers. Like they like Mike Ashley was a terrible owner. He was he was a shithead. Like he was a fucking dickhead. Yeah, like he was a fucking awful owner. But he fucked off, didn't he? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he fucked off. He sold the club. And he got out. Like, these guys, I view them as cockroaches. Like, they will survive a fucking nuclear explosion. Like, they will weasel themselves in a way. And also, not to get, like, political and not to get, like, conspiratorial, okay? But, like, the Glazers are friends with the Rothschilds, all right? And they do have connections to some very powerful people in the world. In many different countries. So, not only do they have maybe ins or they're good at the business side, but they also have well-connected people that are going to help them and do favors for them to maintain, if they so ask. You know what I mean? They can go to these people and ask them for favors. Whether it be leniency from the bank, or, private funding, funds, whatever the fuck it is, they got, like, connections, these guys, okay? Very sort of deep connections, and they've been sort of a little bit all over the place, okay? They have dealings in America with the NFL and shit, but they have other dealings in other parts of the world. They've had dealings with oil and stuff like that. And other places. So they've got like the little fingers in everything, and they have a lot of connections. They can get away with a lot of shit that I feel like some other people might not be able to. They're on sort of a different bit of a level. So yeah, it's Yeah, it's not a great situation. Yeah, why wouldn't you hang on to something that may go up or down? If you got none of your actual money in it, if I got something for free that might make me a lot of money if I keep it, I'll keep it. Especially also just to that point, they don't need it. Like they don't need the money. It's not like they, as far as I know, okay, and as far as like I think you can find, I don't even. There's not even a story of like you see how like there's a story that's been coming out like Ineos are struggling a bit, like, and I'm talking about like Ineos chemicals, like the shit that Sir Jim got rich off of. Like they're struggling a bit, they're losing money, or they're not doing too well, and like Sir Jim, there's not even a story about that for the Glazers in any of their other sort of business ventures. There's no story that comes out that says the Glazers are taking a financial hit or they're losing money in this other area, this other aspect. You don't see this story. You don't see the story, you don't hear it. And it's probably because one, either they're fucking hiding it, or two, because it's not happening. So this is why like I look at them, they're like a totally different thing, because Sir Jim is a billionaire. All right, they're billionaires as well, but quite clearly, I don't know what they know, who they know, whatever it is, they seem to have their shit lined up for them where they're essentially almost a bit untouchable. Whereas other people, they can take L's. They don't seem to take L's. I haven't seen them take an L. I don't see it. Like an actual L. Okay? An L that would matter to them. Not that people hate them or people, chant Glazers out or, it is what it is. Financially, I haven't seen anything that indicates that the Glazers have fucked up their money or their money is getting fucked up somewhere and that they are in a very bad position where they're desperate for money. They don't need the money. And if you don't need the money, well, then you're already on the beach chair with your feet kicked up, chilling and relaxing. You don't need to go, and you're already doing it. They're already doing it. They own Manchester United. They live in Florida. Okay? They have mansions, probably on the water. Very nice places, by the way. If you ever go to Florida, I got two of my friends down in Florida. Right? Those houses are very nice. You wake up, it's a beautiful view. You're right on the beach. It's fucking sunny. Nice weather there all the time. They got they got Lambos or Ferraris or whatever. Like they're fine. Avram just put in a bid to buy a cricket team for a ridiculous amount of money. They don't need the money. So, I don't know what they plan to do with it later on in their life in terms of when they're fucking old, like really old, and basically on their deathbed. Okay. Like what they plan to do with that shit, because I don't know if they have kids. I don't know if they have children. They might not. And if you don't have children, who you leaving the shit to, because usually, obviously, if you have kids, you leave it to the children. So I don't know if they do have kids. They might, and I would assume they do, but they might not. And let's see if they do. Let's see. Joe Glazer, children. Joe Glazer, co-chairman of Manchester United and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is married to Angela Glazer. The couple has two children, a son named Dylan, and a daughter named Zoe. They are involved in the Glazer Family Foundation, which supports community and children's charitable initiatives. Yeah, I mean, we don't know how old they are, okay, and when they were born, because it doesn't tell us, which is like fucking, amazing. And Joel Glazer is 58, by the way. So, like, with money, good resources, access to maybe shit that normal people don't have access to, I mean, bro could live till fucking 87. So, or more. unless life just decides no more, because life can do that no matter how much money you have. But I'm just trying to see like this, and it's amazing too. Like, go type in Joel Glazer or type in Avram Glazer, yeah, and go on the Wikipedia page. It might be the shortest fucking Wikipedia page I've ever seen in my life. It's not even it's literally less than a quarter of a page. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, these guys, like, we know them, we know about them, we've seen their face, but everything about them is like, it's all hidden, it's all a mystery. You don't hear shit about them, you don't know what's actually going on. They're the only ones that know everything. Everything else is like, we're just pure speculation, we're totally in the dark. I'm looking at Joel Glazer's Wikipedia page right now, and I've never seen a Wikipedia page like this. There's nothing here. It's literally less than a quarter of the page. There's nothing here. It just says Joel Glazer, part of the Glazer family. Family controls First Allied Corporation and HRG Group, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the NFL, and England's Manchester United Football Club. The family is based in Florida. And it says, like, his early life and education, which is, like, 3 sentences, okay? And then it says his career, which is, like, 5 sentences, which basically just says, like, 2 sentences about them owning the NFL team, and then there's not even anything here on Manchester United. So, like, I've never actually seen shit like this. You click on Avram Glazer, it's even less. Okay, you click on Avram Glazer, and it's literally just, there's 2 sentences on his Wikipedia page. Avram Glazer, joint chairman of Manchester United Football Club with his brother Joel. Glazer lives in New Orleans with his wife and their 2 children. He is the son of Malcolm Glazer. That's it. That's his whole Wikipedia page. I've never fucking seen anything like this in my life. So, yeah, like, it's just crazy. Like, these people are like, they're almost like ghosts, but they own one of the biggest institutions in the entire world. Let's not go down the route and negatively affect the channel, but definitely a lot of stereotypes they carry. But what I'm saying is, like, I understand that, but what I'm just saying, like, they're not even normal business people. Like, dude, if you type in, like, Elon Musk, you can get, like, a whole fucking background on Elon Musk. If you type in Jeff Bezos, there's, like, a whole, his Wikipedia page is, like, fucking 8, you could look at his business dealings. You can see what they've done. You type in Joel Glazer, Avram Glazer, there's nothing. There's nothing. We know nothing about them. To me, it's, like, crazy. It's insane. It's totally insane that this is, like, a thing. Because, like, go to any other owners. Look at the Manchester City one. He's got a fucking, full Wikipedia page. Type in Gronky. They got a full Wikipedia page. You know what they've been involved in. Like, if they lose money or if they've had some bad business dealings with our owners, it's like, we've seen them. We know that they've done some, dirty shit with our football club. But other than that, it's like they don't exist. Meanwhile, they're fucking billionaires. So it's crazy. They are masters of this kind of shit. Yeah, it seems that way. And this is why, like, I feel bad for some of our fans, because I think a lot of them, they cling on to this sort of hope that, like, one day karma will sort of come back to bite them in the ass for being, like, scumbags and doing what they did to our football club, and, like, they'll get fucked. And I'm just like, I would like that, because it would taste so sweet. As some sort of, massive victory for us. Sort of a taste of their own medicine. Like, you've monumentally fucked our club, and you've, like, caused a lot of pain to people that support this football club, and have done wrong by the fans for such a long time, all in the name of making, a dollar. But I just... I feel bad for them, because they think that somehow, in the end, we'll be able to finally get a W over them. And I'm just like, but where? You know, how? We just, you know, look at them. Look at them. Like, we don't even really know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, everything is a mystery. Everything is hidden. Everything is, like, in the shadows. We don't know a fucking thing about them in actuality. This is why, like, I'm so skeptical of these people. In the afterlife, my friend. Maybe in the afterlife. Maybe. But maybe in the afterlife. Hopefully in the afterlife. You would at least hope, yeah? And if it's going to be one place. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, the conversation is like, oh, like, you know, it's kind of split. People say, like, okay, let's just, like, hopefully they build the stadium so they could get the money, and then they'll sell the football club so then they can fuck off and get out. And the other half of our fan base is like, let's, like, hopefully Ineos fail so that, you know, it all goes to shit. They can't build the stadium. The Glazers get put in a fucked position and they're forced to sell. And I just like, and I'm like, either way I look at it, I'm just like, but if you try to look at the background of these people, you can't find anything on them. So it's like, there's something weird, okay? And there's something strange about it. And if that's the case, I can't lean one way or another, because it's just like, these people they're almost like walking fucking shadows. You know, they're almost like you know, they're almost like a fucking CIA asset or something, you know, where they're just like, they're there, they're propped up, and then one day they just disappear off the face of the planet, and nobody knows anything about them, and they just like never existed. And I'm not saying they are CIA plants. I'm just saying, like, it's just, you have this money, you have like these sort of things, and yet we actually know nothing about you. We can't figure anything about you. We don't know what your plans are. We don't know what their actual goals and aspirations are. We don't know what they're gonna do with our football club. You know, what is their ultimate goal? Because people speculate and they say they want to sell it for 10 billion, and I'm like, okay, maybe, but we don't even know what kind of actual people they are, because they don't seem to really exist. There's no information on them. So, and maybe in the next show. And by the way, we will go live tomorrow, okay? Because it's Friday. We haven't been able to go live for quite a bit, and so we'll go live again tomorrow. And maybe I'll do a bit of digging and see if I could find be a little bit more specific on some of their other dealings and see what that shit ties into, because obviously United's not the only place that they're getting money from. But yeah, it's just, you know. But so yeah, I mean, like, listen, Joel has two children, and Avram has 2 children. So I guess when you put that into context, you know, they could keep Manchester United till they literally pass away, and it gets handed down to their children, which I wouldn't be surprised that they do, because billionaires do that shit all the time with literally everything, whether it's like houses, property, you know, properties, businesses. They pass it down to their children, and the children then, you know, do whatever they decide they want to do. They want to continue to run it, or they cash in on it and sell it. That happens a lot as well. So, you know, I don't know. But listen, we are gonna get out of here, okay? Yeah, man, their father was from Lithuania and immigrated to the U.S. in like the 30s, basically shadow, you know who's, and really dominant at business. Yeah, I know. I forgot. We do got to get rid of Jesus Carrick here. So I was supposed to take him off, but everybody say goodbye to Carrick Jesus, okay? Maybe he'll return one day, maybe not, but we do got to get rid of him. We did make a promise that we would keep him until we lose, and we lost. So, and we lost to 10 men in Newcastle, so we do got to get rid of him. So he's gone. And and maybe we bring him back. Maybe he makes an appearance. You know, one day. Maybe he stops by the channel. But Brown Knight says bye bye, Carrick Jesus. Yeah, I was supposed to take him off after last, but I kind of forgot because it was like a whole week ago. So but yeah, listen, we do got to get out of here because you know, we are 1 hour ahead of UK, so it is 1 hour later. I do got to get stuff done, but we will be back live tomorrow, and we'll be back live at the same time. So for the UK folks, it'll be 8:15 p.m. UK as usual. Same time as today, basically, for wherever you live around the world. Okay, whatever time we went live today, it will be the same time. I'll have it up at least an hour before. If you have the notifications for YouTube, you will get notified. You will get a notification 30 minutes before it goes live. YouTube will push you a notification, so make sure you do that. Okay. Renosa says, okay, bro. Be safe. Have a good day, brother. Yep. You be good too. Yep. Tomorrow. Brown Knight says, and it sucked to lose to Man Newcastle. Did we should hopefully bounce back. Tomorrow we'll talk about a little bit of the match coming up at hand. You know what I mean? Versus Villa. We'll take a look at that. We'll do some of the news, and we'll freestyle it because it's Friday, so it should be a good show tomorrow as well. 4:15 a.m. Malaysia time. Yes. What are you doing up at 4:15 in the morning anyway? Malaysia time. We not that I don't want you here, but you know, you going to work? Are you up for work? I would hope at least if you're gonna be up that early, or maybe you're just an early bird. You know, I'm not really an early bird type of person. Can never get used to that. You know, I wake up at 4 in the morning to go to work. I've been doing this for like a few years, and I just can never get used to it. I'm not a morning person. Not a morning person. Not an early person. I just can't. I try to get accustomed to it. I try to get used to it, and it just never gets any. I never feel like it gets any easier for me. I just did, and in fact, I feel like it wears on me monumentally. Like after doing it for a certain period of time, I'm just like, I literally wake up in the mornings and I just go, this shit's gonna kill me. Like if I have to do this for the next 15, 20, 25 years of my life, I was like, this like I'm literally going to die from this. I'm going to die from having to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I have a problem with going to bed early. I just can't do it. So I was driving back to my place from my mom's place, left at 1:30 a.m., reached at 5:15 a.m. Damn. That's far. And that's long. That's like me driving from like New York to now Florida would take you like a while. Maybe like a little bit past Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's about like 3 hours, I guess. Maybe like Virginia. Yeah, it'd be like me driving from New York to Virginia. It's like about 4.5 hours. Most United games are 4 a.m. Malaysia time, so it's a lifelong commitment. Yeah, I get you, man. I get you. I know. Because, yeah, and listen, that's what I like, too, about some of our fans. You know what I mean? Because, like, not all of it is, you know, UK, obviously, it's in the UK, so it makes sense to be sort of tailored to the UK. And then, you know, as Americans, the United States, we get a fairly good market because, I mean, you know, I complain when I have to wake up to watch the match at 7:30 in the morning, but people like Brown Knight who are in Malaysia, or, you know, I got some of my friends in Australia or in some other places, like the matches, the times are not they're not favorable at all. You know, and I've sort of experienced that as well in the backwards sort of reverse way, in that, like, for example, the NFL is obviously tailored to the time here. So it's like prime time here. But like when I'm in my parents' country, when I'm in Malta, okay, they're 6 hours ahead. So if I'm there and there's NFL and the NFL game starts at 8 p.m. my time here, right? Well, if I want to watch that game there, it's 6 hours ahead. So it's like, you know, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I gotta watch that game. So, yeah, a lot of, United fans, like, the schedule is quite rough. You want matches at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's even worse, especially in today's time. You know what I mean? Back in like 2008, all right, like we're waking up, I'm waking up like 2 hours before the match because we're expecting to win and we're doing great things. Now you wake up, you're up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, all right, to go watch the game, and then you watch us, draw West Ham, and you're like, what the fuck? I woke up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning to watch us draw fucking West Ham, and struggle, and you're like, that shit wasn't even worth it. But it is, nobody watches NFL outside the US. Well, probably. Fair play. I don't really expect them to. Although I think in the UK they do watch it a little bit. They are trying to build the market there, but I would assume everywhere else, no, because like where my parents are from, like they don't watch the NFL. They don't give a fuck about that at all. They might watch a little bit of the NBA basketball, but that's not big. It's football is the biggest. But yeah, I know in the UK they're trying to grow the market because they keep going over there to play games. So. But yeah, it all takes a back seat. But what I'm saying is like, I can understand how it comes because like I grew up watching the NFL here, right? And like so if I go to Malta and I'm there and it's like October and there's NFL and I want to watch it, like that time becomes really fucked up for me. Because instead of watching the game at 8 p.m. at a normal time, I'm watching them at 3:30 in the morning. So I can understand how, for you got to watch a United game. It's 4 o'clock in the morning for you. For me, and maybe Reynoso, our times are a little bit different, but they're closer together. But it could be anywhere from 7:30 in the morning, 10 a.m., 12:30 p.m., or 3:30 in the afternoon, which is fine, compared to 4 o'clock in the morning. So, you to Salt Lake City. A draw versus West Ham ruins your day, but there's always the one-off Lyon game that gives you spring in your step for the rest of the day. Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. So, we'll see. We'll see. We do got this match coming up against Villa. They just played, by the way, today. I think they did win, but it was a bit of a struggle for them, okay? They beat Lille away from home. Ollie Watkins scored a goal, and they won 1-0. So, and I don't think they rested any players, really. They had Martinez, basically all their starting lineup. Sancho started, but he was subbed off. Buendia, Morgan Rogers started and was subbed off for them as well. And Ollie Watkins. So, they might be a bit tired. They are on this sort of schedule. Thursday, what is it? Thursday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll be home. And we'll talk about it tomorrow, all right? So everybody be good. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for smashing the like button, Reynoso. Thank you for the big super chat again. Definitely might spend that on some Zins. And everybody have a good night or a good morning, okay, wherever you are. And enjoy, stay safe, be good, and we'll see each other tomorrow, all right? Friday, good vibes, chill day. And we'll get prepared for the Villa match. And we'll get into that, so it'll be good. Thank you guys for the support. It was good speaking to you. It was good to be back after pretty much about a week. I was missing the community, so I appreciate every single one of you. And again, thank you, just for the support, watching, getting involved in the comments, making the show what it is, and then also just like smashing the like button and all that. So Friday the 13th. Is it actually Friday the 13th? It is. Fuck, I did not know that. Well, now I seem like a fucking idiot for saying that, didn't I? How can you have good vibes on Friday the 13th? I'm a fucking... I had absolutely no clue. But you know what? No, we'll still have good vibes. On Friday the 13th. Okay. It's not real if you don't accept it. Okay. If you don't think about it and you don't acknowledge it, then it doesn't work. Okay. If you just ignore it, it just you get missed with that. You know, it just goes right around you. Okay. So just like tomorrow is not like it's not a bad day. It's not a day that shit goes wrong. It's just it's a regular day. It's a regular Friday. There's nothing evil about it. There's no bad luck. Just like completely ignore it, okay? And you'll be fine. Nothing bad will happen. All right? Everything will be fine. It'll be a good day. All right? It's sort of like the full moon, okay? You know, they got that superstition about the full moon. Ignore. When you see that shit, don't talk about it. Don't acknowledge it. Ignore it. Because if you acknowledge it and you talk about it, some shit happens. And I know because I've seen it. I've experienced it, okay? I've experienced that firsthand. All right? So, if you just ignore it, nothing will happen to you. I promise. It's all good. Liverpool lost, City and Chelsea got battered, and the quadruple went down the drain. I'm having a great Friday the 13th. Well, there's still Arsenal, right? By the way, I forgot to mention, but real quick, 2 minutes. One, Arsenal, super lucky. I mean, that wasn't a fucking penalty, okay? And they got bailed out, yeah? So, that was some bullshit. That was the softest penalty I've ever given. That shouldn't even be a foul outside the box, let alone inside the box, all right? And then I got attacked by Arsenal fans yesterday, by the way, because Terry Flewers from the Football Terrace put out a tweet saying that he put out a tweet basically saying that he was like, I don't know what people are complaining about, or something to that effect. Okay, he was like, here, I'll read you the tweet directly, yeah? He said, Tillman catches Madueke, and it's a clear penalty. I'm not sure what the complaints are about. Havertz steps up and puts it away 1-1. And which I replied to him and said, the game's gone. That was softer than baby shit. That shouldn't even be a foul outside the box. I made this reply, and I got absolutely attacked by Arsenal fans, okay? The Arsenal fans was so fucking mad at me for saying that, yeah? That they came flooding. And, bro, they got comment, not a United fan talking about the pen you got versus Palace. He wouldn't have gone down outside the box, I think somebody said. One person agreed with me and said sport for the P word these days, okay? Some guy said, what a surprise, another brain-dead Man United fan trying to stay relevant. One guy said, I have seen softer penalties in 2002. What the fuck are you talking about? You are a teenager. Hilarious. For talking like this. United used to scam pen against us. Okay, guy. Weirdo. This other guy, Arsenal, 1886. Why haven't you clowns kicked off yet? Is there a delay? You idiots can say about soft penalties. Yous are the worst divers in the league. Another Arsenal fan told me to cry more. An Arsenal fan that I don't know if he's Maltese or not, but he called me a Mijnoon, which is a Maltese word for basically a jackass, essentially, okay? And then some other Arsenal guy put up a GIF with 3 crying, laughing emojis, 3 clown emojis, and 3 middle fingers. And the GIF in giant letters is a giant alarm that says dumb cunt alert. So, which I was so happy about because I was laughing. I was dying laughing because number one, I don't know any of these people. I don't give a fuck what they have to say, right? But number two, they all proved my point because not a single one of these people, right? First of all, they got emotionally triggered, okay? Second of all, they got so angry by what I said, okay? I didn't accuse them of match fixing. I didn't say that they bought the referee. I didn't say anything. All I just said was that the foul, in my opinion, was soft and it shouldn't have been given. I didn't say anything about like Arsenal's buying the refs and it's rigged for them to win. I didn't say any of that shit. And these guys, not a single one of them, nobody, no Arsenal fan could come to me and just hit me with a response and say, no, look, listen, he clipped his leg. You know, he was late on the tackle. Nobody could explain in the football terms as to why the foul should have been given. So they proved me right. Because they knew deep down inside their little hearts, right, that they got away with one. That they got very fortunate. Because otherwise, you wouldn't get that fucking angry. And also, none of them made a counter argument as football-wise. It was all personal attacks. So, thank you, Arsenal fans, for proving my point. Appreciate it very much. It was a big help. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. Arsenal are going to end the season with 0 trophies. You heard it here first. That'd be funny. Rage bait at its finest. Music to my ears. I mean, I wasn't even trying to rage bait them. To me, it was like a genuine... to me, it was a genuine quote. Like, it was a genuine take. I was like, dude, like, that was a really soft penalty. I don't think it was a penalty. It was like he didn't even touch him. He didn't even touch him. Like, I was like, that shouldn't have been given as a pen. And just as somebody that like is looking at the game, I'm like, dude, if that was against us, okay, I'd be losing my shit. And if it was for us, maybe I try to make an argument for it, but if they were like no pen, it'd probably be one of those where I would just be like, yeah, you know, you're not really gonna get a pen on that. Like, if you know how it'd be something that I would let go within like 2 minutes. Like, I would hope for a pen, but if they don't give it to us, I'd be like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? I wasn't even trying to rage bait them. It was genuine, but they just, people get mad, and then like I laugh because I'm like, well, I'm not going to respond to you. And, it's hilarious. I'm like, please get more angry. Like, say more things. So my tweet gets more fucking traction, I guess. Even though that wasn't my intention. I just was responding to Terry Flewers because I disagreed with his take in that he was saying that he doesn't see the complaint. And I was just like, well, you're a United fan. Okay. You have a job to be sort of, he talks about all clubs, and that's sort of his channel and his show. So he talks about, like, all the matches and not just United. But I was like, I disagree. Like, people are complaining because it was soft as fuck. And to be fair, listen, this might just be the Arsenal fans online, okay? Because I know a couple Arsenal fans. And I messaged my one Arsenal buddy yesterday. And I was telling him, I sent him a screenshot of the replies, and I'm like, dude, your fans are delusional. You know what I mean? I was like, your fans are absolutely delusional. And he just sent me a crying face, laughing emoji, and he was like, dude, that was, it shouldn't have been a pen. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't think it was a pen. He was like, I don't know what they're on about. But he was like, it wasn't a pen. So I was like, yeah. At least there's, out of the whole fan base, I seem to have found the one maybe sane Arsenal Gunner fan out there. The only one. So, but yeah, the referee were Turkish. Mourinho was absolutely right. Mourinho, he's gotten some things right. So, they didn't call him the special one for nothing. But, all right, listen, I'm getting out of here, all right? So take care. Be good. We'll see you tomorrow, all right? Everybody stay safe. And thank you for all the support. And